Hello ladies, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Aisha. I'm a certified trauma-informed coach, and I am on a mission to help 1 million women become their most confident and successful selves with the use of law of assumption. If you have not yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that button and tap the bell icon to be notified so you never miss out on powerful tips, inspiring stories, and essential guidance so that you too can manifest the life of your dreams. And ladies, don't forget, I do have a premium channel membership. I call it the Confidence Club Premium Membership. And there I go into detail about methods and techniques, as well as share a little bit more of my personal experience manifesting. And I really get into the nitty-gritty of deconstructing law of assumption so that you can master manifestation. All right, we don't just want to manifest casually. We don't just want to manifest free cups of coffee and little text messages here and there. We want the real deal. That channel is for you if you are ready to take your manifestation game to the next level. Today's topic is all about imagination, and I'm so excited. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. First of all, I am a word person. I love words, so I love definitions and getting into the meaning of words. So let's start out with the definition of imagination. It is known as the ability of the mind to create and envision ideas, images, and scenarios that are not present in reality. It is a powerful cognitive function that allows us to visualize, innovate, dream, relive, and explore. It's safe to assume that most of you watching have used your imagination in so many ways. And particularly, I think in the law of assumption community, when we talk about imagination, most of us think about visualization. However, covering the topics of dreaming, having goals and aspirations that you seek out in the future, that is using your imagination. Also, to recall the past and imagine them going different ways. I don't know if you've done this before. In manifestation, we call it revising, but I, as someone who is neurodivergent, often go over past conversations with people, and I will ruminate over, I should have said this, or I wish I could have said that. Especially like if I was having like a playful argument with somebody, I will think of like the best clapback after the fact. But that is part of our imagination when we're exercising that. So it is more than just the ability to visualize and daydream these scenes. It is the creative power that is in our mind that we use in everyday life to solve problems in a creative way, or just navigate our life from a perspective that is seeking to call forth new energies. Neville Goddard believed our imagination to be God. I personally do not define my imagination as God himself. However, I do see imagination as a portal to the divine. It is the access point that we have which connects us to a world greater than the reality we're presently living in. So knowing that it is a portal, what is a portal used for, right? We think of like teleportation. In sci-fi, we think about using a portal to go to another universe or another planet, right? And the concept remains the same, that it is a portal or a doorway that allows us access to something we're not currently living in. It transports us from our current reality to a completely different one. And in manifestation, it's truly the same idea in practice. More often than not, we do use visualization, but using your imagination goes beyond the practice of sitting and visualizing something in the form of imagery in your head. But I really want to continue on the idea of imagination being a portal to whatever reality you are desiring to be. One of my favorite things to do in meditation, actually, is to imagine I am walking down a hallway and there are doors to my left and there are doors to my right. And at the end of this long stretch of hallway, there is one door, and I open it and I step through it. And for me, this is an imagery of a portal. So as I step through this portal, I'm being transported to a new space that is separate from the reality that my physical body is sitting in. And I do this to convene with my future selves. Usually I will have an idea as to what date in the future I want to travel to, whether it is, January of next year, or whether it is 5 years from now, or whether it is 50-year-old me. I like to play around with the different future versions of myself. And in this meditation, I'm visualizing having a conversation with future me standing in front of me, and we are just as real to my mind as if it were actually happening. Even though, of course, I don't know of any hallways where you can walk down, open the last door, and meet with a future version of yourself. This is the power of imagination, though. The thing about imagination is that our brains do not know the difference between something that we are imagining and something that we're actually living through. Let's do a quick exercise. I want you to close your eyes and imagine I hand you a ball, and it is a tennis ball. What color is it? Can you see that bright, obnoxious neon green? Can you see the little white curves in the rubber that are the lines within the ball? Can you feel the fuzziness in your hand, that plasticky, scratchy, fuzzy feeling? If you bounced it on a tennis court, what would it sound like? If you smelled it, what would the rubber smell like? How does it feel in your hand, the weight of it? All of those details are available to you through your imagination. Let's do another really easy visualization. Imagine I hand you a lemon wedge. Does it feel wet in your hand? Can you smell the strong citrus? If you were to put the tip of your tongue right on the lemon flesh, how sour would it be? Would it make your face pucker up and your cheeks tighten? The aroma of the flesh is slightly different from the aroma of the peel. Can you notice that difference? If you squeeze it, is it mushy and overripe, or is it nice and firm? Is it dry, or is it super juicy? All of these details are being generated by your brain in imagination. This is how we use the tool of imagination. And Neville swore by using imagination to manifest, and particularly with visualization. The reason being is, as you've just gone through those two exercises, you can see how your brain is eager to come up with those details. It's excited to paint those visual pictures and generate sensations in your body. If I think about eating a lemon and I really focus on it in my mind, I can feel my body salivating to prepare for how sour it is. I can feel a slight tightening in my cheeks because I'm puckering up from the tang. And I can smell it as if it's right in front of me, like someone's just shoved a lemon in my face. It feels so real. And it's okay if when you practice using your imagination, it's not that strong. Again, it is like a muscle. Just like all of the tools and techniques we use, you get better at them the more you practice them. The other thing I want to mention as well is if you've experienced any form of PTSD, whether that is big T trauma or little t trauma, and we can go into that in another video, you may have difficulty accessing your imagination. This is because it affects how your brain works. So people who experience symptoms of PTSD and who are very enveloped in the symptoms and feel a lack of control over their PTSD tend to have limited access to their imagination. The beauty of this is as you work through whatever events caused you to experience post-traumatic stress disorder or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and the more you quote unquote heal, right, or reaffirm a new identity of yourself, a healthy identity, who has a healthy relationship with your visualization, you can access imagination on a greater scale than previously. So again, if you are watching this video and you're noticing yourself struggling, it's perfectly okay to accept and acknowledge that that's where you are today. I promise you though, and especially as someone who did struggle with imagination previously, the more that you exercise this ability in as many ways as possible, the stronger your imagination muscle gets. Now, I really, really love to use visualization. I used to struggle with the actual images of it, but I didn't struggle with imagining what would it smell like, what would it sound like, and the tactile sensations that my brain conjured during an imaginative act. So if the actual visual representation of what you're desiring is difficult to access due to having something called aphantasia, which is a lack of a visual imagination, you are more than encouraged to go into your other senses because those may be stronger for you. Whatever senses are more accessible to you, start there, and then you can build the skill of utilizing other sensations. In using your imagination, I also highly recommend that you use all of the senses available to you. Let's have an example of you are manifesting receiving a certain amount of money, let's say $1,000. And this $1,000 comes to you in the form of 20s. And that stack of 20s, some of the 20s are crisp and some of them are worn and torn. And the smell of money, right? Money has a distinct smell, especially in America. American dollars have a very distinct, gritty, earthy type of smell. And the buttons on the ATM machine and the prompts on the ATM machine have different colors based on what financial institution you use. The feeling of your card, some of the older cards have a relief impression of like the numbers where they protrude outward, and the newer cards have pretty much nothing, they're just smooth. So, all of these details together in a visualization. Think about what it feels like to get in your vehicle and start your car. Do you turn your key or do you have a push button start? How does the feeling of your steering wheel feel as you're driving? Is it really sticky and grippy? Is it smooth? Is it squishy? Is it cold? Is it warm? What does the seatbelt sound like when you click it? And how do you feel in your driver's seat? Is it leather? Is it cloth? Do you have, custom seat covers? As you're driving, what do you see from your house to the bank? Are there certain restaurants that you see? Are there smells, right? Do you drive by maybe a gas station that has a particular gas-like smell? Or do you drive by a bakery that has a really sweet smell? All of these details that you incorporate as you're driving yourself to the ATM, as you're pushing the buttons on the ATM, as you're withdrawing the money from the ATM, and you smell the 20s and you feel them in your hand as you count them. All of those details. What does it sound like when you push the buttons on the ATM? I can imagine my ATM is like bonk, bonk, bonk when you push the buttons. So all of these details, all of these pieces, when you use your imagination, you want to use all of them, because this is effectively how you paint the picture of what is on the other side of that portal. Does that make sense? So if imagination is the portal from our world to the desired reality, we really want to make the desired reality feel just as real as it feels when you exit the visualization, you open your eyes, and you go about your daily life. Even though the portal itself is always accessible to us, we still need to exercise the use of this imagination with the details to make it feel rich, to ground the imagery in our bodies and in our senses as best as we know how to. And it's okay if you don't have that many details, just begin. And the more that you do it, the closer that you bring this reality to you, the more the details will fill themselves in. I really love the idea of imagination being a portal to the divine because I think it represents our relationship with God in the most accurate way. So God cannot be confined or conceptualized by humans. We do our best to explain who and what God is, but we're limited. We are limited in our language and we are limited in our human understanding because we were never meant to completely know God the way that humans describe things to be. I think when we really know God, we feel the God within us, and imagination is the best way to access that feeling. In meditation, the more you practice it, the lighter your heart begins to feel. And I believe that the lightness that comes in the body is a result of accessing our imagination, stepping through that portal, and existing as closely to God as we can humanly be. The repeated practice of exploring possible scenarios and dreaming up different possibilities is really embodying the gift of creation we've been given as humans, having been made in the image and likeness of God. Using this imagination is your birthright, and we as humans have been given this imagination because this is the quality of God. Other animals, I don't believe, imagine the way that we do. They don't have access to this portal where you can essentially create an entirely new reality for yourself. That's one of the privileges of mankind. And when we think about imagination as a portal to the divine, it's so much more powerful to make use of. And it's so much more exciting from a spiritual perspective to make use of. Because it's not simply, oh, I'm just going to daydream and, think about this so I can solve my problems and make myself feel better. No, using your imagination is like a lifeline to God. It's like getting on the phone with God and saying, this is what I'd like to see, and this is what I like to feel, and, it's so rich and beautiful when you practice it. Once I started to see imagination as my connection to God, I had a much more impactful relationship with visualization and with manifestation as a whole. And I also really like the analogy because it allows me to remain human. I know a lot of law of assumption teachers like to use the affirmation, I am God, and I understand what they mean by that, but to be fair, I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to be God of all things. I feel like that job is too heavy for me as one human. It's not that I don't like having control over my own reality. It's that I'm happy to have control over only my reality. That keeps me busy enough. That keeps me active enough. That keeps me satisfied enough to play with my own world, my own life, my own experience, and not have to worry about anybody else's. But knowing that every single human being also has access to this same imagination, to this same portal, to another world, gives me a concept of faith that I didn't used to have. And I love the idea that what if in imagination we're all accessing God in his true form? What if we're all experiencing a taste of what he as our creator exists as? And within this portal, we also get to experience the higher selves of one another. We get to experience the versions of ourselves that we'd like to be, the perfection of ourselves, the ideal versions of us. And we're all in this imagination world where we get to communicate and manipulate our reality that way. It's definitely a really interesting topic to chew on. It's definitely something that we could have discussion after discussion. But mainly my intention for this video was to share how I view imagination and the ways that I like to utilize my imagination to manifest, and how I see imagination from a spiritual perspective. So I would love to hear what you all think about imagination. What are your thoughts on imagination being a portal? Do you feel as though seeing imagination as a portal is helpful to you in using visualization as a manifestation tool? And what ideas have come to you through imagination that have proved to you that using your imagination is accessing the divine from within? This is one of my favorite things to talk about, so I'd be happy to do a part 2 on this video if you do have any questions or suggestions. And if you are interested in more content like this, where I go into the different techniques and share with you methods that I have personally created or used from other creators, please check out my Confidence Club Premium membership. I have a series of masterclasses I am launching all year long, where I break down the different concepts and go really deep into the manifestation methods and techniques so you can use them most effectively to get your manifestations faster and easier. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Who Is She podcast, and thank you for being a channel supporter and a subscriber. I really appreciate this because this is my special interest, and I'm very passionate about helping women become their most confident and successful selves with the use of law of assumption. I will catch you in the next video. Take care.